Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Coffee with Coaches podcast. I'm your host, Kevin, and I'm smiling because the man I have with me, Paul Sanbar, is a delight. I already know that. As a coach supervisor, workshop facilitator, and author, book title forthcoming, hold that thought, Paul's life and career have been dedicated to the field of self-development and to affecting positive change through storytelling and conversations. Initially as a psychotherapist, and now as a professional certified coach, accredited by the International Coaching Federation. Paul, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Kevin. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm smiling as well.
We have a great job, don't we?
You know what? It is a lot of fun. And like I tell my clients, I say, let me know if you're not having fun, because then we're not doing it right. But of course, when you're having fun, there's some work to it, right? But
Well, let's start at the start. How did you get into coaching? What prompted you to really start a coaching practice and really pursue it as a career and life passion?
Yeah, no doubt you've probably heard this before, but so many coaches that when they decide to become a professional coach, they say, I've always been a coach. It's just now this is what I call myself, right? Insert sports reference. I love basketball. I'm not just because I'm short, but even if I was really tall, I'd still be a point guard. I love dishing assists. I love getting people involved. It's about we, not me. But to answer your question directly, really, it's the only thing I can do. To be honest, I wanted to become an architect, actually, way back in the day, just build these amazing structures and then in school I met actually one of my best friends and realized, oh, you're gonna be the architect. I'm not gonna do this. All kidding, but I decided, let's go to business school, undergraduate. It was a great time. It's a great profession. Learn about a lot of things. Finished school, went to work. It was right at the peak of the first .com bubble, so I rode that bubble down for a few years. Lots of fun. Work for 6 months, get a 2-month severance, go on vacation, come back, work for 6 months, get a 1-month severance, take a smaller vacation, come back. But and what I really found out was that I cared a lot, and I realized, the reference I make is that I cared so much more about the person than what they were stacking in their wallet, right? And so I made what I now jokingly refer to as my second fortunate series of overcorrections, and I overcorrected way into the field of psychology. I became a psychotherapist. I loved it. It was great. I'm such a passion for that field. So many colleagues and friends are still doing it. But what I found is that as a young person, when you make a turn, you're still new at driving. Sometimes you turn a little bit too much, and I found myself a little bit far out into a place where it didn't quite fit right. And so now, after not wanting to become, realizing architecture wasn't the thing, business wasn't quite right, psychology wasn't, and then you're this person and you're just like, what am I supposed to do? Well, the truth is that it was all of those things, just an amalgam and I hesitate to use the word perfect because I struggle with perfectionism, and I'm still working on that, like many of us. Yep. But it was an alchemy. It was like the perfect mix of different things: creativity, and as an architect, business savvy, and leadership, of course, psychology, how we think, what it is that's going on behind these big eyes of ours. And right in the middle of all that, in my mind, was coaching. And the story I tell people is that I actually am an architect now. Yep. I just have a different set of materials, and that is people, their future, who they want to be. And I think of coaching as scaffolding, right? Scaffolding is a temporary structure. It's there for a short period of time, but without it, you can't get much more than one story off the ground, right? And so that's what I do. As a coach, I help you scaffold where you want to be, hopefully up. I mean, I guess we can go down,
or
in
out
case,
or down.
or out. Yeah, that right. Horizontal development is as important as vertical development, as they say in leadership. But yeah, that's really what it is. So, about 10 years ago, I made the shift away from what I say pure psychology into coaching psychology, and really leaned into it. And the best part about it is that I still get to help build and play, because what I really came down to is, as an architect, I just still wanted to play with my toys.
Building is such a powerful act. It's like, because it's literally the putting together of pieces. You're not necessarily fabricating anything that isn't already there. You're identifying what's required, maybe shaping, and then helping collaboratively put it together. It's just, it's an analogy I continually find myself going back to. I love that you went for scaffolding. That one's near and dear to my heart. Temporary structure that builds, great feats of art and architecture,
Yeah, exactly. And because, as coaches, we know it's not about us, right? We have to infuse a bit. We can't not bring ourselves into the work that we do, but really it is for the sake of our clients, right? If I see something, yes, I may help support the client in using some of my expertise and some of my overcorrections. But if I help the client build and take them where I want to go, that's serving me. And it makes me feel good sometimes until they say, well, that's not what I wanted. And then I go, oh, wait a second. I'm kidding. But it really, as we know in coaching, it is so much about where they want to go. And that's why that scaffolding and the building is such it makes so much sense, and I'm glad that it makes sense to you too.
It so does. Speaking of service, I want to make sure we spend some time talking about what you're doing now. What's your approach now? What's the things that they're really moving and shaking you? I know you've got a lot of stuff on going in the air, but let's talk about some of the cool stuff that's got both my inner child and my outer adult excited.
Well, here's where it gets really cool, and where my 9-year-old self gives my adult self a high five all the time. Kevin, I have somehow figured out a way to use Lego and my passion for building and help other people build and scaffold, and using it in personal and professional development. So I'm certified in something that's called Lego Serious Play Methods. And that was actually created by the people at Lego when they were struggling in the 90s, when GI Joes and Transformers and all the toys I don't know if you played with, but I played with, were taking over the scene. And they said, we gotta move with the times, and their visioning and organizational department said, hey, we're going to use what we already know well, which we do in coaching, and build and recreate who we are using Lego. And so that's what I do with my clients, either with groups and teams or individually, is take some Lego, help remind them, and say, this is what Lego Serious Play is. It is not about building an awesome car, right? It's about taking all the thoughts and all this amorphous stuff going on in your body and your heart and your soul and your mind, and actually creating it and making it tangible and holding it in your hand. And so it's about making meaning through building these thoughts. And then what happens is when they can physically hold their idea or their thought in their hand, then they can talk about it. They can pull it apart. They can break off what's working and build more of that. We can talk about what isn't working and figure out how to put that to the side. But also, I get to see what they're thinking and understand on a tangible level what they are seeing in their mind's eye. And so that's what I've been doing. And then COVID hit. And then nobody wanted to play with my toys. Funny thing.
Virtual Legos not nearly as fun or productive as physical tangible Legos.
Right. It isn't. but like necessity being the mother of invention, we have to shift, we have to roll with the times. And I do some of this work still virtually, but then I said, you know what, technology really is allowing us to do so many different things. You know, we joke about it now, about being on Zoom and all these other things, but it is amazing. And so I did make a pivot, and I started using something that had been around for a little bit, but really exploded in the last couple of years, and that's digital whiteboards. The one I happen to use is called Mural. I'm a part of their consultant network.
Nice.
And so and Mural, if you don't know, for other people, it's this collaborative space where you can have many people all on the same whiteboard playing around. It's fun. They look like ants. It really is a fun thing, speaking of system. But I said, you know what, Mural, I love doing that, and I do it for teams and groups, but I really want to focus on using it one-to-one. And using this idea of visual thinking, of creating, you know, as coaches, we ask a question, you know, think about 6 months from now, what do you see, right? And when they can actually take some sticky notes or some pictures or some icons and actually right in front of me, move something in front of them too on the screen digitally, and actually create a picture of what they see, now I can fully see exactly what they're seeing. And then I can say, you know what, that's that one icon you picked, I noticed that it's smaller than the other. Is there something there? And you know, as I'm not therapizing, it's not what I do. I'm not saying, oh, because you have a green blob, that means that you might. No, I just be curious and ask questions. And then, and you know what, if it means something to them, it'll come out. Or maybe they're like, you know what, it didn't until you said it, but now that you're saying it, that is, and I'm noticing that I am playing small in that arena or something like that. And so now we're building and seeing visually what we're creating. And the most amazing thing about that, what I'm so passionate about, is that, you know, I love being in a coaching session. And, you know, you end the session, what are you working on? What are you taking away? You know, these questions, as I like to say, you land the plane and everybody gets off and knows where they're going with their action steps. But sometimes right when the call ends, poof, it's gone.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you know, when they're engaged and working, and you know, and maybe it doesn't happen because they're just not ready yet, right? I mean, that is, and we pick back up, and no judgment in the next session, you know, okay, it didn't work. What got in your way? And that maybe even make for an even deeper discussion. But what happens in both the Lego serious play methods and in this other hands-on visual thinking using digital whiteboards is at the end of the session, there is an artifact. And I capitalize the ART because it is an art. But also when you think about an artifact as an archaeologist, you might like Indiana Jones as much as I do. But you think of the art, what do? They go to this area where, you know, there may not be anything there. And then they just dig a little bit and they find something. It's a little bit under the surface. And then from that, they learn so much about a people, about a culture, about who they are, about who that culture might have been, what they ate, how they lived. And that's kind of what we do in coaching. We dig a little bit and then we create these artifacts. But in this work, you literally have a tangible artifact in the Lego serious play. There is a bill, there is a structure that they can put on their desk and say that experience is right there. It's tangible. It's not going away like many feelings do, right?
Yeah, or they slip through your fingers. You know, they're not. It doesn't just exist in your head. It's something that's outside of you and tangible that you can reflect on. Yeah.
Right. And so for me, that's the power is in the moment, in the session, and also in the takeaway, that artifact that they're taking away and reflect, you know, that on their that printed out, or it's on, you know, stuck to their fridge or wherever it may be. Yeah. But that's that reminder that the such a big part about coaching is the integration or the thinking about your thinking and the remembering of that experience and going over it, because that's how we change our thinking, is through rethinking, reminding ourselves about it and redoing it, right? Practice, right? We're talking about practice.
Oh, that okay, near and dear to my heart. You're dropping the Allen Iverson on me.
I can't not if I say that word.
Paul, I could do this all day with you, but I do promise to keep things relatively short. So I want to make sure we don't go without you telling all of our listeners where, not just where people can find you, but where you like to be found. Do you have a website you like people to go to? Do you prefer to like get people on LinkedIn? Are you a Reddit aficionado? Where do you like to be found and talk to?
Yeah, you know what? I really do. I think it's almost sad at this point, but LinkedIn is the best place to find me. My website, my personal website, needs to be updated like many other people. Don't go there. I mean, go there and go ahead and laugh at me. But yeah, really, it's through my LinkedIn. Paul Sanbar. I do work with some other coaches and facilitators and mentors at and the company's called Hawthorne Union, and that's the hawthorneunion.com. But those are really the two places where I like to play. Those are my sandboxes, especially LinkedIn, man. It's a fun place to be and learn.
It really is. It's gotten, I think its reputation is finally flipped now. And because I think, and I used to feel a certain kind of way about LinkedIn too. I used to make, years and years ago, maybe back, I don't want to say how many years ago, let's just say it was a much lower number than 22. I used to like make fun of it as being like the place for people who have like cell phone holsters and stuff like that. Like because you make fun of stuff like that. But over the past like number of years, it's like I feel like every month or two, I respect it a little bit more. I enjoy how much of a relationship builder it is. You can really build deep relationships on LinkedIn.
Yeah. It really is. And interestingly, I literally yesterday saw they have a new commercial out where it's like lots of young people, and it's like, this is me. I may not fit the that phone holder, guy, but that's and isn't that so great that in this day and age that people are able to bring their full self to work, to their professional life, because as coaches, that's a big part of what we support people to do, to allow themselves to fully show up as they are. And what a wonderful gift. And I'm kind of thankful for LinkedIn for even, bringing people like us together. Right.
So, exactly. I love the work. I love the connection, and I have loved this conversation. Is there anything else you want to add before I at least hit stop record and maybe keep you on the phone for a little while longer?
No. Yeah. Just keep playing, my friends. That is it. That is really it.
Keep playing. I love it. That's perfect. Thanks, Paul, thanks for being here. Everybody, thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you.